Good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Rose Grace. I'm from Bethune-Cookman University. And first, I would like to thank the MTNA staff and the planning committee for inviting us and giving us an opportunity to share our insights and experiences into this very important topic, arts, health, and wellness. And we will be discussing the applications in both music education, performing arts, and this global pandemic that we're all living through. First of all, let me introduce my wonderful colleague, Dr. Diana Lee, with whom I'm thrilled to be here.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Diana Lee, and I am very grateful to Dr. Grace for inviting me to this collaboration, and I'm excited to be here with you.
And as you can see, the title of our presentation is Bringing Healthy Communities Together Through Arts, Health, and Wellness Awareness. This is a practice model that Dr. Lee and I started 3 years ago. And we're going to, as I said, discuss its applications to education and health, especially in the times of the pandemic.
And of course, we are going to talk about the strong relationship between mind and body. We know that both of them are interlinked and always working together. So we will be discussing not only the disease, the pandemic, but also a lot of holistic methods that we can use to improve our health.
Thank you. So what our practice model shows here is indeed the integration of all of these holistic approaches, and especially the strong marriage of Eastern and Western philosophies and medicine that is validated through today's Western research, and of course, showing the incredible connection in the power of music and how it engages our entire brain and body. What I thought would be maybe helpful is for you to understand a little bit how this practice model and this whole journey really came about. And it started with a rather challenging time in my life in 2013 when I was diagnosed with an advanced lung infection. It was finally diagnosed as sarcoidosis, although as you can see, it was actually a misdiagnosis. But as a result of that initial diagnosis, I was prescribed a daily therapy of steroids, 80 milligrams a day of prednisone. After being on it for about a month, I was seen at the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, Florida, and I was re-diagnosed with the correct syndrome, hot tub lung syndrome. The problem is I was already on these heavy duty steroids, couldn't go just cold turkey. And it was a journey of about a 9-month reduction plan to get off the steroids. Now, most of us, I think with the exception of Dr. Lee here, are not medical professionals, but I thought it would be interesting for you to see kind of on the left, you see this MRI, CAT scan actually of the lungs with this mycobacterium, which is what hot tub lung syndrome causes, these inflammations of granulomas, these little pockmarked dots that you see all over. And on the right, that is actually the inflammations or these little granules of what the sarcoidosis CT scan looks at the lungs. So as you can see, very similar, very easy to understand why there was a confusion and a misdiagnosis. Now, both of my lungs, by the way, both lobes were completely pockmarked. So that's why they put me on such heavy doses of steroids. Now, within a month of being on this steroid therapy, I began to feel detrimental effects of prednisone, both neurological and muscular devastations. They resulted in vision impairment. And Dr. Lee, if you can just click, please, it'll show up the next part of it. Thank you. The vision impairment really was presented as both blurry and double vision. So you can imagine being a pianist and having lots of recitals scheduled. That was really an impairment. I could, often just simply could not see the notes on the page. Severe muscular spasms, again, especially in the fingers, hands, and other extremities, obviously, as well. But again, unpredictable and sudden. So sometimes just could not simply move my fingers. Reduced coordination, and by that I mean I was seeing what was on the page. I could understand I'm seeing, let's say an A minor arpeggio, just could not translate that coordination of sight into the physical kind of message and that, neural pathway from my brain into my fingers. And of course, shortness of breath and certain damage to my vocal cords just as a result of the prolonged coughing from the lung infection. Debilitating fatigue. And by that, I don't mean just tiredness. Very often, it's like somebody pulling a switch and turning your whole body off. Very often, my husband would find me on the couch with my laptop in hand and my whole face and nose literally buried in it, just asleep and non-functional. And of course, as you can imagine, heavy duties of prednisone just causing these incredible emotional ups and downs in the whole, neurological and emotional state. So where do you go from there? Well, 6 or 7 months prior to this lung infection, I had just begun taking some Tai Chi instructions from my wonderful acupuncturist. And of course, I knew that it was so based in the, and grounded in the tenets of this deep diaphragmatic breathing techniques. And I thought, I have nothing to lose. So I turned to acupuncture, Tai Chi, and Qigong. And you see the symbol, I think we're all very familiar with it, the yin and the yang, but it's also a symbol that's very often used for Qigong as well. And just briefly to discuss what Qi and Gong mean. Qi is that essential energy or that natural force that literally fills our entire universe. It is essential for the heavens, the earth, and of course, all the living beings in it, meaning us, to function properly. Gong is often translated as acquired work through perseverance and practice. And so together, as you can see the definition of their training in life energy, which takes a long time and effort. Now, I think what is not often talked about are the 3 essential parts of Qigong, and that's the Jing, that essential essence of being, the Qi, of course, which is that energy, internal energy that flows. And most importantly, Shen, the spirit, that internal soul spirit. And when they all work together, that is when we produce not only the existence of a human being, but the perfect balance and harmony. The next slide also shows acupressure, which is pretty much based on very similar ideas of acupuncture and Eastern medicine. If you can see, this hand shows you the acupuncture points, which are then connected to very specific organs. And now this is on the hand. We all have these, nerve endings here, but they are also on our earlobes, especially on the bottom of our foot, the sole. And all of these points flow through these meridians, or think of them as channels. And that's where the Qi flows to kind of energize and bring blood flow to all our vital organs. Now, on the next slide, we also see a couple of other alternative techniques, and that is vibrational medicine, which, by the way, is not just in China, but especially in India, very much tied actually to the music connection. As we know, these meridians respond to the frequencies and of our organisms. And of course, what is music? It functions based on frequencies, low and high. And so, again, this healing therapy that happens when you combine music and Eastern medicine to respond to these different frequencies has definitely shown incredible effects on healing our body.
And of course, we see the benefits of Eastern and medicine and music. And, music on its own is phenomenal. When you mix it with medicine, it's incredible. It does all kinds of changes to the body. Research is showing that it really helps you with, relaxing the muscles, improving even, being more flexible. We tend to move better. We enjoy the music. So we know that it really helps us even with breathing. And Dr. Grace has talked about disease and, how, it can really bring you down. We know that, with Qigong, as she expressed, all that diaphragmatic breathing, all the things that she did was to really improve her respiratory system. And that's what happens, when you have those deep breathings, it improves your respiratory system, which in turn, it improves your cardiovascular system, the heart, the veins, the arteries, and that, of course, improves circulation, which improves just everything from the nervous system to from head to toe, we can say that. Yeah. So achieving that state of flow, as Dr. Grace achieved, it is quite important for the benefit of our health. And we talked about acupuncture, which has been proven by the National Institute of Health to have very good results for symptoms. It relieves pain, nausea. People even get a lot of more relief of other symptoms. And also, there's also acupressure as well, as you can see in this picture, following those 9 meridian points that Dr. Grace talked about. It's important. It's a different kind of holistic medicine, but it's been, around for ages, very studied by very reliable sources. So we know that the benefits are there.
And Dr. Lee, if I may, for those who are terrified of needles with acupuncture, acupressure is actually a good alternative because it really does accomplish similar effects. Thank you.
Very good point.
So we're going to talk a little bit about how our practice model applies in this part 1 to music education and performing artists and performances in general. So the purpose of our practice model, and Dr. Lee, if you could advance us to the next slide, please, that would be great. The purpose of our practice model really was to establish an ongoing educational wellness model. And I think if you click, we'll be able to show that on the slide. Thank you. I think it is, we found that in our community especially, so many people are just not aware of all of these approaches and, more importantly, the connection with music and the benefits. We also thought we would do something unique in our practice model, and that is expand the definition of what we mean by performance. The whole idea of this exploding field of music and medicine, right? It really started and it still is focusing predominantly on performing artists. But what is performance? It really is our action, right? And performance in daily life as well as a professional life. And in that sense, we've really redefined and broadened the definition of performance to extend to ultimately all of us. We wanted to also really stress at the foundation of our practice model this integration of effective practices of both Eastern and Western medicine. And of course, demonstrate that essential connection to the power of music, because as we know from our current medical Western research, music in its multisensory, multidisciplinary aspects truly engages all the regions of the brain. And of course, all of this, the aim of all of this is to achieve that optimal mind and body and balance that really helps us function effortlessly and at our best in both professional and daily lifestyles. And of course, our model, practice model, it brings it in the form of interactive workshops by some of the leading experts.
And of course, when Dr. Grace invited me to collaborate, we started working on a music and medicine symposium back in 2019, which was very successful. And we talked about a target audience, and we certainly wanted the Bethune-Cookman University students involved and being benefited, but as well as faculty, staff, and then we went into maybe other performing artists, educators of every kind, athletes, and professionals that were local and that were seeing patients that could benefit from music and medicine, and having that new awareness of this combination through Central Florida. And in the 2019 Symposium, we actually had some phenomenal performers that came down and shared their craft. That it was fantastic. And of course, we had athletes that were, giving us some exercises, some, kind of like getting out of the boredom of being, just doing one thing. And they were able to, help us out with a lot of, different movements. We also talked about the how to for the students to improve their own performance. Dr. Grace conducted some research about that, and she will share with you. And of course, the spirituality and philosophy, the mental and physical health connection, which is very, very important for all of us. And the impact of music and medicine on neurological disorders. We know that many neurological disorders are improved by that. For example, Parkinson's disease. They actually have, in fact, a Parkinson's dance with Parkinson's. And that is to improve their symptoms, to, improve their flexibility, avoid falls. But many other neurological disorders actually improve with music and medicine. And our concert chorale was, they did a research study workshop, which is what, Dr. Grace is going to share with you. That was pretty fantastic. And we learned wonderful things about the students, some unexpected and some that were absolutely great.
Thank you. And so that initial East Meets West Symposium truly established our practice model, because we got, as Dr. Lee said, such overwhelming positive not just feedback, but actually response and need to continue this. We said we need to establish this on an ongoing annual basis. So last year's symposium, I just wanted to share just a couple of different workshops that we brought, but the framework of integrating the Eastern and the Western medicine approaches, and of course, always music and arts, other arts at the root of it were essential. So we began with an acupuncture and qigong warm-up, but it also stressed the ancient as well as the current Chinese medicine connections of music and those, as I said, frequencies within our meridians. We also introduced body mapping, and that was just astounding, right, Dr. Lee? I mean, we were engaged in an interactive workshop to really show us how we need to properly use our body, but through understanding, and I will later show you some slides of how our skeletal and muscular system is designed to properly use each part of our body efficiently. We also brought a dance and movement therapist who actually just talk about integration, right? She went so beautifully with the body mapping, I think, workshop. And then, of course, as we said earlier, it's from head to toe, the whole holistic approach. You can't do that without talking about mental health and nutrition. And especially Dr. Lee will talk about it later today in the context of our pandemic. So it's the whole picture. And this most recent symposium of this year, 2021, again, as you can see, the practice model has really evolved into this bringing healthy communities together. But whereas last year's the emphasis was on sort of life-changing journeys, this year, as you can see, the emphasis is on also how do we cope? How do we fight this COVID pandemic that we're all living in globally? And we were so privileged to have one of the foremost experts on hearing wellness, Dr. Heather Maliuk, and on hearing health. Because if you think about it, right, we're talking about the whole balance of mind and body. Well, when we have damage or distortions to our hearing, not only are we suffering physiological, obviously, challenges and disadvantages, but obviously it affects us mentally. So that was just fantastic. Again, mental health especially in the context of COVID was introduced. We again had interactive, fabulous 35-minute Tai Chi warm-up routines. And we will share some of those with you later. We had a fabulous arts organization in the Jacksonville area here in Florida, Body and Soul, that actually works both bringing services as well as engaged in research with the Mayo Clinic here in Jacksonville. So that was just fabulous. And we also had one of our recent graduates who was interning in the time of COVID. He was really the guinea pig in this, of how do you teach a music classroom and ensembles in the time of COVID. And so it was just fabulous to be able to bring him in. And of course, finally finishing with the whole, again, wellness of chiropractic approach, but also spine wellness that addresses then, again, the whole body and mind. So here, yes.
You know, Dr. Grace, I would like to mention something. Really sorry for interjecting, but one thing that I forgot to mention is that our 2019 symposium was really the first symposium that was hosted by a historically Black university.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, and I haven't heard of another one. So through these 3 years, you know, the Bethune-Cookman has been the only one so far that has been hosting a music and medicine symposium. I think that's you know, important.
It's groundbreaking. Thank you so much for mentioning that. Absolutely. So just a couple of slides to share with you. This was our first East Meets West, and this is one of our wonderful presenters. It was a husband-wife team, Miss Stephanie Meyer-Satin, who, by the way, was the first American woman to receive the honor of being a disciple of the Wudang Sung Feng Pai master of Tai Chi. And she's also a fabulous choral director and also director of instrumental ensembles at Bula School in the Washington, D.C. area. And of course, her husband, she was joined by her husband, Dr. David Kaplan, whose specialty is anesthesiology and pain management. So it's just a phenomenal complete package. And these are just some slides, as you can see here. So our fabulous volunteer student here, Xavier, with body mapping. There's the skeletal, arm and shoulder being mapped onto him. But what was fabulous is after that, Rhonda Kasana, who's a certified body mapping expert, was able to show us, so how does our arm actually move with that skeletal model? And of course, Brittany Cleland, our dance and movement therapist specialist. Now, I thought it would be important, instead of just hearing us talk about how wonderful these different approaches are and effective, to hear some testimonies from both the professionals and some students who attended our East Meets West workshop symposium in our first year. So this is Robin Weiss, a speech pathologist and therapist with over 30 years of experience, currently working in Volusia County. So here's a little bit of her impressions.
There's no conflict whatsoever. The Eastern approach was 100% consistent with what I know about voice physiology and the physiology of voice production. So they were very easily integrated. That was interesting to see, and I really hadn't anticipated that they would just
complement each other.
They would flow so well together, and
conference that you could also use and apply.
Certainly.
In everyday life as well.
Oh, certainly. Well, one of the things that I actually felt, because I did the little exercises with them, is that I felt positive and energized. I felt great afterwards. I felt relaxed. So immediately I felt a difference within myself. And it just sort of reminded me, like, oh, this is an easy thing that I could integrate into daily life. And it felt good. It felt really good. Then, though, it also has a lot of professional applications. And in fact, I keep thinking of more and more applications
That's
for
wonderful.
the information. Yes, absolutely. Different types of children with different types of disorders who might benefit from some of these techniques. Right off the bat, of course, I saw that there was an application for children who have disorders with vocal quality or insufficient volume. So they, were very obvious candidates for this. And then also children who have low tone in the oral musculature. What happens to those kids in lengthy utterances or in conversation is they get more and more difficult to understand. And you can compensate to some degree with improved respiration, improved breath control, improved posture. And these strategies obviously would support all of that.
Now, Robin also goes on to talk about applications for autism and anxiety. And what I would just like to point out here is, when she's talking about all these conditions and situations, they apply not just to children, right? But as Dr. Lee mentioned before, to adults who suffer from neurological disorders such as Parkinson's, for example, or stroke victims. And of course, we all in our, whether it's private lessons or ensembles and classes, have students with autism and anxiety disorder. So you can see the applications of that. So here's a testimony by one of our students, an instrumentalist, saxophone, Sarah Slaughter, who will share some of her experiences with this workshop.
About a month into the semester, I was stressed. Honestly, because of theory, my plot lessons and things like that. So I came and I was like, I'm gonna try to get as much as I can from here. And so when I got there, like I said, being ignorant of like what's going on, so I came in not knowing anything. And then with the presenters, the way they explained everything was easy to understand.
Great.
And so with them actually demonstrating as well, it was even better to just basically mimic their movements. So while we were in the process of doing it, at first I was getting upset with myself because I was doing all types of weird movements.
Yeah, coordination is not easy, right?
I was like, no. But once I kind of got the hang of it, it's like, for some odd reason, and I've never experienced this before, but it's like my mind as well as my body was like one. As if they were working together. Yeah. And so I felt it. And so, again, being completely honest, I didn't think of anything. Like, all of my thoughts just flew out of my brain. Like, because usually, subconsciously, you're always focusing on something, but there was literally nothing.
That's right. So I'd like to just comment what Sarah Slaughter said and a little bit of what Robin Weiss said, too. Notice they both commented on how easy it was to incorporate these Tai Chi routines, and also what Sarah commented on, this being one kind of, right, mind and body and everything being gone. That really is that mindfulness or state of flow that we're all talking about. And it was just fabulous to hear her impression. So here's a vocalist, Sarah Crum, who, what's wonderful about her is she actually was one of the participants in our research study with the concert chorale. So here's a little bit from her impressions.
But what did you personally feel of what you felt, as the singer before the routine, and then after you had gone through the routine and you sang the same piece again?
Mm-hmm. So before, I, was into the usual performance mode. Yeah. So it was kind of like, I didn't go into automatic mode, but it was kind of like, this is a performance, Mm-hmm. So it was like, I do what I have to do, and, I put my smile on. So it's like, so it's just like a typical
performance mode.
So after we did things, it was, of course I calmed down. Everything was like kind of like relaxed and things. And I also think that really helped out, but not even just me, with other people. I feel like I heard people's voices be more relaxed. Because, if you were in the performance mode, a lot of people tend to get tense. And I know sometimes like I would have problems with like my posture going down, and like I would have to massage my shoulders afterwards sometimes. So I feel like afterwards I was more relaxed and things, it just felt more
open.
Yeah. And it wasn't so performance mode, So it was kind of like, freer.
And I think if we go to the next slide, just to give you a little bit of an overview. So the research study was conducted through pre-study questionnaires that really addressed very specific questions regarding both your mental focus, your mind, how stressed you were or not, and also physical observations. Do you feel stiffness or pain in your neck, in your arms? How's your breath control, et cetera, et cetera. And so what was fabulous about the research study that Stephanie and David conducted with our concert chorale is we got to hear the concert chorale perform a selection that they were very comfortable with before this 20-minute physical routine of Qigong and Tai Chi. And then we got to hear them sing exactly the same selection again after the routine. And then they were asked the same questionnaires in the post study then, how did their shoulders, how did their neck feel, what was their focus like? So on the next slide, you will see the astounding results. And what I would like to bring your attention to is, first of all, the age. These are young people, 18 to 22, not like us old folks here. And we think of them as relatively in good shape. There were 42 in concert chorale members, so a pretty good, I would say, slice of the population to do these preliminary studies with. The astounding figure I want to bring your attention is in the pre-study data. 74% of these young people were already complaining of some kind of stiffness, soreness, and in many cases pain that was greater than level 3 on a scale of 1 to 10. I just want you to process that number. 74% of that phenomenal singing group was already starting at a disadvantage of physicality and, of course, translating into their mental state. If you notice after the routine, not only what Sarah said, it sounded freer, but look at the numbers. I mean, the relaxation, right? The mental focus, the control of breath, just astoundingly improved. So what this research study points to is the fact that this is most certainly applicable within our music education system. So what are some of these applications? Well, I think we really want to stress and introduce our students to what is physical and mental wellness. I think that is so important. I don't think most of us, even adults, fully comprehend what that concept is. Certainly not our students. I think really demonstrating again the incredible connection of music and health, especially, as I said, as a multi-sensory system that engages our brain. And of course, as we know, helps not just within music, but with STEM and other subjects for our students. Really integrate the effective approaches and methodologies of Eastern and Western medicines in ways where we can introduce them to these basic Tai Chi and Qigong warm-ups. What I love from our testimonies that we heard from these pre-recordings is how easy, right? How easy it is to incorporate for all of us into both professional and personal lives. Then, of course, I think it is crucial for us as educators to show our students and educate them about body mapping, how our body is supposed to work properly. And then try to hopefully show and lead by example of how to use our bodies properly, especially when we're engaged with our instruments. Really, as I said, apply them to both music practice sessions as well as performances. The whole idea is to encourage and develop in our students as well as in ourselves these healthy habits inside and outside of the classroom. And of course, finally, to achieve that optimal, effortless, free balance of mind and body that enables us to perform so well. Well, this is where, gosh, I wish we were face to face because I would actually lead you through the routine, but we're going to have to, I think, just be happy with just a couple of the slides I put up here of myself doing earlier this summer. These are just some of the Qigong. What I want to bring your attention to is the isometric idea behind these Qigong exercises. And what I mean by that is it's the whole idea of connecting that diaphragmatic, that deep breathing with the, inhale. By the way, in Tai Chi and Qigong, you inhale and exhale through the nose. That's very important. So you inhale in a relaxed state, and then whatever, let's say this posture or as you see down below with my thumbs, we contract or tense up. So doing the opposite with our muscles. Now, it's not just, tensing up. The idea of this isometric exercise is imagine there's a imaginary force pushing from behind of my, hand, my shoulders, my body. And I'm literally, when I'm contracting and exhaling, I'm pushing against it. That's the whole idea. And so that is what gets that whole energy or chi flowing through us, gets the bloodstream, and as Dr. Lee said earlier, gets all our circulatory, respiratory systems going in that perfect balance. Now, the next slide, of course, is an idea of the body mapping. So we show a little bit of how our skeletal system is designed to work, and then we try to see how can we really use those hands and necks and shoulders and backs in a proper way instead of going against what our body is meant to do, to really find that effortless and free movement of expression. And finally, the applications of music, I would say, to add to this. This is so important, and I've given these talks on previous conferences. The whole idea of art of musical visualization that, of course, translates into this multi-sensory engagement of the brain. Now, why is that so important? We don't have to spend 6 to 10 hours at our instruments necessarily. We can visualize all of this. It helps engage, in fact, our finger and reinforce finger or muscle memory. The next one is spatial memory. Think of your string players shifting on the fingerboard, whether keyboard or wind brass players with, spatial memory, registers and just a whole space on the keyboard. The art of that internal hearing. Now, we know from our current research of MRIs, our auditory cortex is just as involved and lights up when we visualize that internal hearing without actually hearing an audible sound. So again, perfect for developing that skill. Just the basic image memory as well, right? Remembering almost what all of those notes look like on the page. All of this visualization inspires and heightens awareness of all the other musical skills, such as tone quality, the sense of timing, breathing within phrasing. And of course, the most important is we really do reduce playing-related injuries because we're no longer using all the incorrect gestures for hours and hours of senseless playing on the instrument. So it really is developing these accurate and efficient techniques.
And I love this quote because it brings up everything that we really need to focus on during a crisis. And during the pandemic, this is like no other crisis. And so it is time to question ourselves. How good are we being, to ourselves? Are we eating right? Are we getting enough sleep? Am I getting enough physical and mental exercise? So we know that the pandemic is challenging every one of us, and that we need to refocus on, what are we doing with our health? My area of expertise is health equity. Health equity is divided in 3 areas. Health disparities, those are the differences that happen among different groups of people. Social determinants of health are things that determine our health, like where we are born, the job that we have, perhaps where we live, and social justice, which means really equity. And equity is not the same as equality. Mm-hmm. Equity is that every one of us should receive the fair distribution of assets in a community that fulfills our needs. So it's not the same for everybody. We all have different needs, and that's what equity is. And of course, there are many, many effects of the pandemic, beginning with financial status. Whether we lose our job, there are less hours, we receive less hours to work. And so that automatically leads to mental health. It impacts our mental health. We worry, we feel anxious. And that, of course, with that very strong tie between our mind and our body, it affects, of course, our physical health, we can say from head to toe. The financial effects of the pandemic here in the United States has been, number one, the loss of employment, which of course right away in turn will create a loss of income in that, translates to losing healthcare, housing, transportation, ultimately even our nutrition, not being able to buy certain things. And all of us have been affected. We know that performing arts has been affected from early on, even since probably February. And we have in here from Disney to Broadway, but truly, it really is everybody. Even music teachers at elementary school. We know that performing arts has been greatly affected by the pandemic. And of course, the pandemic on mental health, there is an increase of new diagnoses. People that didn't have any mental health issues before, but the pandemic is pushing them to the edge. We also have people that have had diseases before, and now they are exacerbating for many different reasons. So this really presents an international new challenge in public health, to have so many people with some kind of mental health disorder. And for people that had it before, the ones that are very exacerbated, and some of the new ones is depression, anxiety, insomnia, and those diseases like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder are being exacerbated. Now, the pandemic effects on mental health has been because of the disruption in routine management. Not the patients not being able to see their therapist or their psychiatrist for prescriptions. The decrease to the healthcare providers has been tremendous. More emergency use by patients with mental health. And of course, that translates to more hospitalizations, which in turn puts them in danger of COVID-19. So it's sort of a negative domino effect in here. There has been an increase in suicide and, of course, an increase in unreported domestic abuse. And we know it has been unreported because when the patients show up at the emergency room, they demonstrate injuries that have been happening for months, and they have not been able to report that. So the pandemic physical changes for most of us is the lack of activity. We become more sedentary, especially for those that work remotely. For essential workers, every essential worker has had much more difficult working conditions. And that, of course, adds mental stress, physical stress for sure. They're going through a lot. The decrease in doctors' business checking on screenings, on chronic diseases, of course, has a lot of the physical effects. There's an increase in substance abuse and weight gain. Boredom, being at home more, what else is there to do? This really increases all our personal struggles and challenges. And of course, the effects of the physical challenges is all chronic illnesses become mismanaged. So maybe a rising high blood pressure, out of control diabetes, not being able to sleep well. It makes you feel more stressed, not performing as well. And since we're talking about performance, there's, like Dr. Gray said, many ways that we perform, professionally, but also personally. This when the depression or anxiety, whether it starts or it exacerbates, and then we have trouble concentrating in whether it's at home, where maybe we're not present. So we know that the management of wellness really is out of control, and it is a good time for us to refocus what we're doing for ourselves. So the first thing is, I always advise people, create your own personal mantra. This is my personal mantra, and it's created basically on a tapping technique that I do, and I will show you what it is in a minute. My mantra is just based on my personality and the things, my needs, and we'll expand on that. Of course, it can be very spiritual, like I am grateful for this day. It is mine to make good choices and be kind to myself and others. It could be religious. Today is a day that the Lord has made. Now, Dr. Grace, do you have a personal mantra?
Well, I think lately it's been truly to be grateful to just wake up every day and have relatively good health and sane mind. And I'm truly, that's what I wake up with every day, and am grateful for it.
Wonderful. And that's a very effective strategy to be grateful. We sometimes forget about that, and I think that's quite important. Well, the tapping technique that I was talking about was developed in the 90s. I've been using it for the past 5 years, and I found it very effective. YouTube has plenty of different videos about it. I personally like the Jessica Ortner one because it's very simple and it's short. She goes right to the point. But this is a great technique where you do a little tapping on the 9 meridian points that acupuncture and acupressure identify as important points. And I am going to start just with very briefly doing the tapping technique. And so you start with the karate chop, just tapping gently, and you can say your mantra. In my case, I like to say what I feel, and then reinforcing my beliefs about myself. So I can start with, even though I feel very anxious and tense about this COVID-19, I know I'm taking care of myself. I wear my mask. I, wash my hands, and I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best. And I love myself and I trust myself fully and completely. So you do that through all the 9 points, above the eye, and you repeat the mantra as you go along. And, on the chest, on the side of the chest, and the last one on your head, while you may say, today is the day of the Lord that the Lord has made. I feel blessed. So whichever one is your style, it's good to have a mantra that you can reinforce your beliefs.
Tapping. How wonderful. And sorry, I just want to say again, how easy, right? I think the whole point of this presentation, how easy to incorporate.
And I think that's a very good point of, it doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to cost you money. It can be just very simple to do. And, that even involves eating. And we're going to talk about that. So just looking for something that is going to be very adjustable to our life, that it will make it a lot more doable. So tapping is very convenient. You can do it anywhere. You can do it at work. You can do it at home. It can be done as many times consecutively if you want, or throughout the day to help you. You can do it with a loved one. You can teach maybe a child to do it with you. I used to teach the students at Bethune-Cookman University and, do it together. It relieves mental and physical stress. It really is a form of active meditation. And some of us are not made for full meditation. I'll say myself, I feel like I'm very anxious and I need to have some kind of movement. This really fulfills that. And it just makes you feel very well in a very easy and simple way. And of course, there's tons of movement therapy from Qigong that Dr. Grace has shared with us, and it's wonderful to improve your breathing, your respiratory system. Martial arts, of course, dancing with music, proven to be very effective to treat a lot of neurological disorders and improve their symptoms. And of course, for those that like to be very active, Pilates, spinning, it could be running, anything. And let's remember that it's so important to have activity with our body, because that's the only thing that improves our circulation system. And anything that improves our circulation system will improve everything, including our brain. So this is where that body and mind are so strongly connected. Circulation of the brain is very important. And of course, the benefits of movement therapy, whichever one you choose, number one, you burn calories. So in this time of pandemic and maybe overeating or, not knowing what to do, it does give you, a way to burn calories in an easy way. It burns negative energy. So if you are angry, maybe anxious or depressed, we know that moving a little bit more, especially outside in nature, it really makes a difference. It improves your flexibility, which prevents falls. It also helps with the management of chronic diseases, whether it's high blood pressure or diabetes. And all of that helps us to sleep better. And we know that our sleep is quite important. And I don't want to forget all the things that we have been doing, maybe riding a bicycle, walking your dog, maybe using some of that yoga or Tai Chi. Even gardening makes a big difference. Even, anything that you can do outside or moving a little bit more, it will improve your emotional and physical well-being for sure. And that is important. We need to be able to be one within ourselves, know how to center ourselves. And all these holistic techniques can really help you to do that. When we talk about nutrition during pandemic, it's just a little different. So many pluses, of course, more time to research the food, maybe look for great recipes that we like. The minuses are big. We are bored. We are tired of cooking. We miss, buying food. We know that here in the United States, the research says that the average American family buys food 5 times a week. So eating out 5 times a week. And I will say to you that I thought, well, no, I mean, I don't think I'm doing that. But when I was looking into buying lunch, getting a sub at the supermarket, it does add up. So it is true. We were eating out. We were eating out too much, I should say.
Guilty as charged.
Yes, it is a form of entertainment, you know.
That's it.
And so this is something that has changed tremendously with the pandemic. And for some people, that might just be enough to get you depressed, you know. So it is important to know what to do in a pandemic when it comes to nutrition. But there's so much information out there. I mean, I know you know this. You Google something and you get 20 million responses for that. And it is very confusing. So the first thing to do, you gotta know, what are those myths? What are the things that are not true? Everything that you have in this page is not true. You know, it is very important that you start focusing on the things that are real, that are true. If you don't like breakfast, you don't have to eat breakfast. You know, you need to start eating at the time that is best for you. And you may not eat breakfast food. You may eat something else. So focusing on that and the foods that are really healthy for you, you know, it's not that difficult. Let's make it easy. Let's make it simple. Dispel all the stuff that is not true and focus on the stuff that is true that you can really do. So the research shows that the best diet for you is the one that you can achieve, the one that you can do. We know that, you know, if you make it simple, you make it easy, then it's doable, it's adaptable to your lifestyle. I especially like the website of the United States Department of Agriculture. They have all the nutritional values of every single food, tons and tons of recipes, a lot of wonderful information, and it will just make it a lot easier for you to personalize it, to be able to live with it. And of course, to create that balance that Dr. Grace and I talk about, very important in our life. But within that balance, we do want to have the cheeseburger maybe once in a while, something we like. But, you know, having a sensible diet, a diet that's doable for you, will give you the good day-to-day nutrition. You know, it will be easier to make it a lifestyle. You will be able to hopefully lose a little bit of weight if you need to, and create that balance that is able to give you the management of chronic illnesses, the prevention of other illnesses. I mean, there's a lot of great benefits of having a sensible diet that you can create with the assistance of maybe the Department of Agriculture, and that's a free website, and making it easy, simple for yourself.
And Dr. Lee, if I may, you
Yes.
know, that important word on that previous slide, you know, that the balance, as you said, we've been talking about that balance throughout the presentation, but as we said, it's the whole balance, right? From head to toe, mind and body. And of course, it's not only from the outside, but it's what you put in to your body that also helps us accomplish that. And as you said, I think, again, our whole aim here is to find you know, sort of flexible, manageable, accessible, and easy ways to achieve that indeed optimal balance.
Yes, and one of the things that happen when we start doing good things for ourselves, whether it's, you know, maybe doing some Tai Chi or maybe some tapping or selecting better foods for ourselves. But what happens with that, we improve our self-image. We feel better about ourselves right away. So these are things that are also good for our soul. You know, we want to have a good self-image. We want to be good to ourselves so that we can be good to others. So creating that balance in our life is really very, very helpful. We have learned lesson number one with the pandemic is that it is extremely expensive to get sick. So sometimes, you know, we kind of hesitate spending a lot of money in food. You know, fruits and vegetables, they go bad, or, you know, look at the frozen ones. You know, it is important to really focus on our health at this time. And I like this quote because it's true. If you think the pursuit of good health is expensive and time consuming, try illness. We know that it is important to have that new focus and approach to holistic medicine. It is good for us, not expensive, and it will make us feel much more balanced in our life. So this is something that I really want to say. Please look into all these choices that we have given you. I hope that you will, be curious enough to explore, and that you continue to wear your mask, social distancing, and washing your hands and all of that good stuff, just to stay healthy and be good to your family as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. And maybe we can just put up the last 2 slides. So we're going to share that with you through the website, MTNA's website. So we have further reference list to read, as well as on the last slide, some wonderful websites for you to check out that Dr. Lee put together. And as we said, the whole aim of this presentation is to just encourage you and introduce you to this very easy practice model that can be applied both in our professional fields, especially, as I said, as educators. I think it is our job to instill in our young people good, proper, healthy habits and put them into practice. So we should all lead by example. And again, thank you all. Thank you, MTNA, for hosting us.